I've been wanting to do a video about what the typical day of living in my car looked like when I used to live in my car. And during the time that I was living in my car, I do have to tell you that I had a job that didn't start until 9 in the morning. And typically I would wake up at 5 in the morning because that's usually when the sun would start to come up and the birds would start to chirp, and that would wake me up. So I would usually have basically a whole 4 hours between the time I woke up till I had to be at work, which left me with a lot of time to try to find something to do in the morning. Now, at least an hour of that time could be spent at the gym, taking a shower and getting ready to go to work. But some of the other time, if I wanted to go to my storage unit, that's where I kept all my clothes, they usually weren't open at 5 or 6 in the morning. So I'd have to wait until they opened. That left me with a lot of time to just kind of sit around and do nothing. So that's why I'm here at what is known as Green Lake. And I would come here in the mornings and I used to just walk around the lake, get some exercise, get some fresh air, and get my day going. I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. But because a lot of my life was spent doing that, I probably was a lot more in shape during that time because I was getting a lot more exercise with that daily walk in the morning. But let me show you around. There is a walking path that goes in a circle around the lake. Green Lake has free parking and public restrooms. And you'll also notice there's a lot of people walking around on the trail, so you're not out here by yourself. Basically, when I would go for a walk, there'd be plenty of other people out just walking their dog and getting some exercise. Okay, so realistically, after going for a walk, I'd probably be pretty out of breath and whatnot. But from here is probably when I would go to the gym and go take a shower and get ready for work. So very close to Green Lake, there's also this grocery store. It's called PCC Community Markets. Sometimes I would go here in the morning because they would have kind of like a deli breakfast buffet area where you could get something to eat for breakfast that's already hot and cooked and ready to go. And so that's why I thought I would at least film this to give you an idea of sometimes what I would do to just stop and get something to eat for breakfast. So from here I would drive north of Green Lake and go to the 24-hour fitness. That's the gym where I would go to take a shower in the morning. And about a block from the gym was this Walgreens, and right behind the Walgreens was where my storage units were at, where I kept all my clothes. And from here I would drive north to get to my job. I worked in Kenmore, Washington. The drive to work in the morning was very scenic. It passed through Lake City and Lake Forest Park. This area is also where I had my post office box, so it was very helpful to just pass through here and pick up my mail. This area in particular has some very affordable micro apartments. If you'd like me to do a video about micro apartments, please leave a comment below. This water you see here is Lake Washington, and sometimes you can actually see the seaplanes take off from here. I do want to talk about a couple other breakfast options I used to utilize, and really going and getting breakfast in the morning was also an excuse to be able to go use a public restroom somewhere. So there were two other places I used to go to. Now, if I was to show them to you here in the video, there's always McDonald's, but then there was also Jack in the Box. And I am mentioning this because at the time, Jack in the Box used to sell breakfast. I don't know if they sell breakfast anymore. And the Jack in the Box I used to go to is now closed down. So I can just kind of show you photos of it, but it's not even there anymore. The building's there, but they're not open for business anymore, I guess. And I would go there in the morning, and typically they would have this like egg and bacon and potato bowl type thing. And I would have that in the morning because that seemed fairly healthy to eat. And then of course I could use the restroom while I was there. And I would of course like take my time while I was there because like I said, I had these 4 hours to kill in the morning. So I would go to Jack in the Box a lot. That one, like I said, it's closed down. It's not open anymore. And I've noticed a lot of Jack in the Boxes now, you can't even go inside and eat inside anymore. It's like drive-through only. It seems like they've converted some of their locations to be drive-through only. So back then you used to be able to go inside, sit down and eat, and you used to be able to go to a McDonald's and sit down and eat and use their restroom. And depending on where you're at and what part of the country you're in, like I said, I'm in Seattle. There's a lot of locations, even McDonald's, where they've shut down the inside where you can't go inside and eat. It's drive-through only. You probably also noticed if you go to McDonald's nowadays, you don't even go up to the counter and order food anymore. There's usually like this video screen that you have to order from. So things have changed, obviously, right, in the last few years with technology and whatnot. But also that means there's a lack of access to being able to go use a restroom somewhere, and kind of like a lack of access to be able to just sit down and relax and eat your food somewhere. When you are kind of like living this lifestyle on the road and whatnot, maybe you don't want to spend every minute of your day in a car. So it's like I had this whole full morning of going for a walk, going and eating breakfast. I had like leisurely amounts of time in the morning before I even made it to work. So let's get to what would happen. I go to work in the morning. Like I said, I go to work 9 in the morning. And then let's say it's lunch break time. There's two things I wanted to point out here in this video of things that I would typically do on my lunch break. During this time that I was living in my car, I had very little money. So me eating these breakfasts every morning and whatnot, I had to be very careful with my money. Where I worked was actually next to one of these Dollar Tree stores where everything was $1. Now I haven't been to a Dollar Tree in a while, so I think maybe now things are like $1.25, $1.50. I don't know. They have some items that are $5 when you go to the dollar store now. But when I used to go there, it was still $1. Okay, so I would go there, and Dollar Tree food is not exactly healthy either. So because it's a lot of shelf-stable food, there's like a lot of preservatives in the food. This is like not food that I'm suggesting that you eat. But if you're poor and it's all you can afford, it's pretty much what I lived off of. So typically on my lunch break, because there was this Dollar Tree store next to where I worked, I would go there and I would try to find something for $1 to eat. And even if it was something like kind of like junky, like popcorn, or they had some cheese or something. Like there's times when you're like, is this even like real cheese? This seems like some man-made plastic. Or the popcorn would have like some weird chemical flavoring all over it. And yes, I used to eat that. I used to eat it all the time because it was all I could afford. And this is why I said I had a very unhealthy lifestyle. And this is why I want to do a whole video covering this topic, okay? Because I feel like it kind of relates to like where I'm at now in life with how I'm not the healthiest person out there. And it's because I had a pretty horrible diet for a very long time. But I also wanted to point out another place I used to go on my lunch break because there was this thrift store that was nearby where I worked. And the reason I would go there sometimes is because, like I said, I had just moved to Washington. I had moved to Washington from Arizona. I really needed a whole new wardrobe. I didn't have like a heavy, thick jacket to wear because there was no reason to have one living in Arizona. I didn't have any sort of like heavy boot, like a rain boot, snow boot, or anything like that, because I just wore like flip-flops, you know. It was hot in Arizona. So I had to like buy a whole new wardrobe as far as finding warm enough clothes to wear living in Washington where it gets cold, it snows, it's rainy. I would try to like buy a rain jacket, you know, things like that. I would also buy like what they call, like, I guess, duck boots. I'll include a photo of those if you don't know what those are. But they're just kind of like a shoe that has a rubber toe to it so that your feet don't get wet because you're like kind of walking around in the rain all day. So, you know, this is kind of like I would go to the thrift store and it was somewhere I could go and find cheap clothes instead of having to buy stuff brand new. So I thought I would throw it in here into this video as far as what I would consider my daily routine. Obviously, I don't go shopping every single day, but it was somewhere to just go and to, you know, spend time somewhere when you have nowhere to go, really. And then, so where I'll leave this off today is just kind of like end my video talking about that I did go to work. So I worked a typical like 9 to 5 job. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'll probably do like a wrap up video of what I would do at the end of the day at some point. But that was what it was like. Typical day, my morning routine, living in a car. Thanks for joining me today. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And I will see you on my next video. Thank you.